And we are live, left.
Okay, thank you. Is everybody back?
Yes, I'm here.
Joe, Tim, Jennifer?
All here.
Okay, all right. So we will reconvene to open session. No action was taken in closed session. And then we will go and move. I see Sherry Lorenz is here. Do we want to move up 11D at the same time? Can we do that without breaking the rules too much? Nobody's going to comment on that. Or should we keep the agenda as is?
You haven't started. I think if you want to make the motion to change it, you can.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. So I make the motion that we move, Robert, it was 11D, correct? Robert?
11D is correct.
Okay, all right. So we'll move 11D after 10A on the agenda in front of our presentations for the student social and emotional well-being. So can I have a motion, or I'm making that motion. Can I have a motion to approve that?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Okay, I'll take that as a so moved in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Okay, so the agenda's changed. We will go to 10A, Robert.
Okay, I'm actually, the auditors should be coming online here. Mike do we have anybody in the waiting room to come on? Paul Pham?
He's currently joining.
Okay, great. So I'll go ahead and do the introduction while Mr. Pham connects here. We have the audit reports for both the 2014 and 2016 bond issuance. Prop 39 requires that we do a separate audit for each one. We are looking at the 2018-19 audit. Yes, it's about a year behind. Normally, the board would have seen this back in April, but due to COVID-19, we were not able to meet and have the Bond Oversight Committee review the audit. So we were able to have that meeting on September 1st. So we're ready now to present the two audit reports to you this evening. And I have Paul Pham from our auditor from Siobhan and Associates, and he's just going to give you a brief overview and be available for any questions.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Robert. Thank you for inviting me out to share the results with you guys. I know it's a little bit late, like Robert was explaining, but a second here. Okay, so the overall, what I want to do is just kind of touch on the key items from each of the reports. So from the 2014 Measure B, you'll see in the financials there that the total expenditures for the year was just over $20 million. And the ending fund balance left in that measure was just under 900,000. So, and with the 2016 Measure C, we did have a bond issuance in that year. So you'll see the $26.4 million in proceeds into that measure. Total expenditures for the year for that measure was $18.6 million. And that leaves you with an ending fund balance in that program at just about 12.6 million. As far as the results, just before I get into that, were there any questions on the financials themselves or any of the numbers in the disclosures that I can go over with anybody? Okay. As far as our audit results related to the financial statements, we issued unmodified opinions for this. This applies to both measures. We issued unmodified opinions, which basically means that the financial statements were fairly presented in all material respects. As far as internal controls over the financial reporting and compliance, our audit did not identify any deficiencies in internal controls for financial reporting that we considered to be material weaknesses. And our tests did not disclose any instances of non-compliance or other matters that required to be reported under governmental auditing standards. Okay. As far as the performance and compliance piece of our audit, we did not identify any exceptions to the procedures performed, nor exceptions to other tests that we conducted related to Proposition 39 or the 2014 and 2016 bonds. So overall, the district's doing a great job of managing the bond programs for the district. And yeah, it's a nice clean audit. So good job to Robert and his team.
Great. Well, thank you, Paul. Are there any questions for our auditor or for me?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. And,
Yeah,
have a
thank
good
you.
day.
You too.
All right, good luck in the school year.
Mr. Brown, you're muted.
What's the matter? Can't you read my lips? I'm sorry. Thank you. So what I said is we have to take action on this. So assuming no other further questions, I didn't hear any, may I have a motion for the acceptance of the Proposition 39 bond audit reports for the year ended June 30th, 2019.
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll say it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Then Robert, we'll go ahead and do 11D.
Yes. So right on lines with the bond funds, we have Miss Sherry Lorenz. She's a member, longstanding member of the bond committee, bond oversight committee. We did meet on September 1st. Part of what we did is we did review the audit reports that the board just accepted. But there's the other part of the function of the committee is to review everything to make sure that we're complying with the bond measure. So I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Lorenz and go from there.
Good evening, everybody. Hello, President Brown, trustees. It's my pleasure tonight to do a presentation on the Bond Oversight Committee. We have actually been meeting regularly, and it was good to meet again. It had been a little while since we had met, so it was great to meet again and see everybody's faces. So in keeping with the bylaws for the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, we met 2 times during the calendar year of 2018. That's what we're reporting on. At its meetings, the following items were discussed and action taken as needed. We had election of chair and a clerk. We reviewed the bylaws and election documents. We review of the revenue projections and receipts, review of the district bond expenditures and projections, and also review of the audit report for the year ending June 30th, 2019. We had establishment of meeting dates and also approval of meeting minutes. I'm happy to say that the committee can report that all bond fund expenditures pursuant to resolution 1314-12 Measure B 2014 bond and 1516-34 Measure C 2016 bond have been spent on the projects listed on the attachment, and the district is in compliance with the requirements of Article 13A, Section 1B3 of the California Constitution.
Great, thank you. Any questions? We covered it all. If there are no questions, can I get a motion to accept the Bond Oversight Committee's annual report?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Great, thank you, Sherry, appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Sherry.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Sherry.
Okay, so now we will go on to presentations 5A, student social and emotional well-being.
Yes, I think it's really critical during this time, this period of time, that we consider the emotional well-being, not only of our students, of our staff, all of us, because it's a very unique and unusual time. So I asked Mr. Marshall to put together a presentation on how we are supporting our students. And that is something that we see in our conversations, in our surveys, is the importance of emotional well-being. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Marshall, and he's got a team with him, and I'll let him introduce his team as they do a presentation for us.
All right. Can everybody hear me this time?
Yes.
All right. That's great news for me. Thank you, Dr. Perez. It's my pleasure to be part of a robust team to support to the Board of Education what we're doing to support our students during distance learning. With me tonight, I have Alexis Gebb, our district behaviorist, Dr. Gia Welsh, our preschool psychologist, and Angie Scardina, Rancho Cotati High School assistant principal and extraordinaire. Kirby, can I share my screen? And I can, so here we go. Share. Okay, can everybody see that now? Great. So before I begin, I just want to say what a fantastic jobs our sites are doing. Our sites are continuing to provide outstanding service for our families. They are the first stop our families reach out to when they have concerns. And all of our sites are providing academic support. Our counselors are reaching out to our students. Our admin are reaching out when students have issues or they aren't showing. I know Angie Scardina has already made 15 wellness checks with our SRO. I'm checking up on our kids. They're performing conflict resolution. They're providing, frontline technology support, and the list goes on. So I just want to acknowledge the amazing hard work and awesome job our sites are doing when it comes to supporting our students and family every day. And that hasn't changed because of distance learning. They're still doing a terrific job. So first up is digital citizenship. We have a K-12 digital citizenship program. It's coordinated by Macy Juhola. She's an assistant principal at Evergreen in Monte Vista. And given that we're in distance learning, this is incredibly important for our students to understand the pitfalls of social media and working in a digital world. So I just want to give you a quick little tour. Hopefully it will work. So we use Common Sense Media. So as an example, can everybody see the website that I just jumped to? Here you see the Common Sense Media website. You could click here for educators. So this is what a teacher would click on. And then you go to digital citizenship. And as an example, I'll take you to quick activities 612. So a teacher can go here and talk about like their digital footprint. So we click here and here's the lesson already laid out. There's the video, student handout in English, student handout in Spanish, activity steps, discussion questions. It's really well done. And Macy Juhola sends us those lessons every other week, and I push them out to principals who send them to staff.
Matt, I'm not sure if we're supposed to see this. I can see the digital citizen screen, but I don't see the other stuff that you're talking about.
Okay, it must be the limitations of the share. So
Okay.
it basically, yeah, it's a very robust website that has completed lessons for teachers, because we know teachers are incredibly busy right now. And so it's all kind of laid out for them. They can just go there. It's a great lesson, embedded videos. They don't have to do a lot of planning to support our students.
Okay, great.
Next, we used to have quarterly mental health team meetings with our psychologists and counselors and assistant principals 4 times a year. Because of distance learning, we're now meeting 3 times a month. We have a small team made up of myself, Angie Scardina, Alexis Gebb, Gia is on our team, along with our social worker and a couple psychologists, just to kind of plan out and get an idea on what's going on. The large team, which includes all district counselors and assistant principals, we meet once a month because we just want to keep our pulse on what's happening with our students and our families and to plan accordingly. So as an example, two of our accomplishments already is our new online mental health support system and our upcoming mental health webinars. So I'll jump to the next screen. So our online mental health system was a lot of work for the team. And I have to say that the team has a full plate providing ERMS counseling for IEP students. And so this is really on top of what they regularly do, but everyone on the team is so passionate about supporting our students. They really felt that this would be an awesome way for families to access mental health services in a one-click environment. And so what we did is we created literally a page on our website that lists all of our schools. You go to this particular spot and you click on your school and it pulls up a referral system, and you just enter your name, your student's name. We list out about a half a dozen issues that you might be struggling with, like stress, anxiety, whatever it might be. And then they hit submit, and within 48 hours, one of our mental health professionals will reach out in their preferred way. They could reach out via email or by direct phone call, because when they input the referral, they state what their preferred method of communication is. And we want to communicate with them on what works for them, not necessarily what works for us. And it's been very successful. Even though our families know that they can call the school and get access to resources, this is just something really simple. If a parent isn't sure what to do, we posted it on Facebook. We put it on school websites. We directly emailed it to every single family. All they have to do is click, put in the referral, and we get out to them, and we get back to them within 48 hours and support them. So it's been very successful. The first week we launched it 2 weeks ago, we had 23 referrals in a week. So they definitely wanted support, and we were there to help them. We are now launching monthly mental health webinars. The first is happening September 29th. On Monday, the advertising will go out for that. The topic is going to be self-care. A lot of families are struggling just managing, working and, helping their students with online learning. And we need them to know that, everyone is under stress, but here's some strategies on how to take care of yourself and your families. There's going to be a question and answer period afterward, and we're going to record the video. So anyone who missed it could then watch it, listen to the questions and answers, and attend that way. And once again, our goal is to produce one of these every month. Next is social emotional learning curriculum. Our sites have asked to have more curriculum for social emotional learning to help our students cope with the increase in stress. And so we've always had Toolbox, which has been an elementary program, which has been very successful. This year with PBIS, we're going to have Strong Kids, which is a tier 2 social emotional tool. And I won't go into that right now. I'll let our PBIS people talk about what that might look like. This year, we're funding Second Step, which is a middle school program. All of our middle school principals wanted some social emotional curriculum for their teachers. And so we've got that. And at the high school, we have Character Strong. At the elementary level, Megan Epstein, twice a month, coordinates some lessons. She sends them to me and I push them out to principals. And we're working on trying to do the same for secondary. But secondary sites have a little bit more resources, so they're currently managing that. Next, we also have the Stop It app, which is a fantastic tool. For those of you that don't know, every student in secondary has an app that the school coordinates, and it's linked to their school administration. And any student who wants to report something for themselves or for friends or for family simply puts in their concern, hits send, and it goes to their site admin, who respond accordingly. It might be that someone is being bullied online and they send in the report. Then the administrator actually gets back to them. Even though it's anonymous, they don't know who they're getting back to, but they get back to the student and they often ask additional questions. Like you said that Joey is bothering you online. Can you tell me Joey's last name, so I can reach out and help you deal with this situation? Principals have told me that because of Stop It in the last 3 years, it has saved the life of at least 2 of our students who were contemplating suicide, but their friends found out about it, used the Stop It app, informed our administrators, and we could intervene immediately, and they did a terrific job. And it's not just for bullying. Students use the Stop It app for just about any concern they may have. It's really a terrific tool, and it's free of charge, which is awesome.
Director Marshall, I have a question regarding that.
Yeah,
So with it being an app, is it only good on your cell phone, or is the app also good on their Chromebooks? How does that work?
It is designed for phones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not on Chromebooks.
Okay. All right. So if they had an iPad, though, something like that, it would work on that.
We
Anything
could,
that's app based.
yes, we could download the Stop It app onto their iPads.
Okay.
And parents actually use it too.
That's great. Thank you.
Sure.
It's great to have.
Oh, absolutely. Our nursing team is working hard to support our children during distance learning and families. And so they have come up with a monthly nurses newsletter, which Superintendent Perez has shared with the board last week, I believe. They really did a terrific job. I put a sample right here for you, but it has clickables. So if you want to learn more about something, you can click and it'll take you to additional resources. So that was terrific. Under construction, we have 2 exciting programs with our nurses. One is we're going to create a school nursing tab on our webpage that is full of health resources for our families. And we're currently working on creating a nursing online referral system, just like we have on the mental health online system. We're going to be working on that for the nurses as well. We don't want to replace primary care providers in any way, shape, or form. We don't want to get in that business, but our nurses perform a lot of useful services that primary care providers may not be able to get to right away. So if a student, as an example, is getting headaches after being online for a couple hours, they may need glasses. So, jumping on the nursing online referral system and having a nurse, from one of your schools contact you and talk to you about what's going on could be of real service to our families.
Can we, I don't know if we have, but can we be sure to share all this on our Facebook page as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure. We also have a lot of outside agency support. As an example, we currently partner with CPI, the Child Parenting Institute. They offer all of our secondary sites chat counseling, and that stands for Child and Adolescent Therapy. And it's really designed to support ongoing counseling for children who are victims of trauma and abuse. And it's free of charge, it's grant funded. And we have quite a few of our students served by CPI chat counseling. We also have a relationship with SOS Counseling from Sonoma County Mental Health. And I'll let Angie talk a little bit about that in her portion of the presentation. We work with Sonoma County Probation and Seneca Family Agencies who provide us with KKIS, or Keeping Kids in School. And right now we have Nick and Hernan as case managers. They do a terrific job. Technically, we're only supposed to have 1, but somehow they've kept another one on our caseload. So that's our secret. I'm not telling anyone. I'll keep 2 case managers anytime. And what they do is they deal with our most chronic students, the students who are really struggling, showing up and attending. They have a lot of resources. They'll go out to the home, they'll meet the family, figure out what's going on, provide ongoing support and outside agencies, referrals to help our students attend more regularly. We also have the Drug Abuse Alternative Center for students who are struggling with substance abuse. And we have a close relationship with the Petaluma Health Center. When our counselors see a student and realize that the student may need some serious ongoing mental health support, we can refer them to the Petaluma Health Center, which has a wonderful Medi-Cal program and a very quick, they have 2 employees whose sole purpose is to handle all the Medi-Cal intake and paperwork process. So our most needy families can get the care they need in a timely manner. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the awesome relationship we have with Roanoke Park Public Safety and the Cotati Police Department. They've already helped us do numerous wellness checks on students who aren't showing up to school. Our site admin and our police officers have checked in to make sure that people are doing well and they're healthy and they should be attending school. And with that, I will hand it over to Alexis and Gia to talk a little bit about our positive behavior intervention and support program.
Hey, so hi, everybody. We're really excited to have a chance to talk about PBIS because it's something we're really passionate about. And as Dr. Perez said, I think right now, providing that layer of emotional support for our students and families and staff is crucial. So what Alexis and I want to do is talk about 3 things related to PBIS tonight. We want to give a very brief overview of what PBIS is for those who may not be familiar with it. We want to talk about what PBIS looks like during distance learning, and then also talk about some really fabulous initiatives and trainings that we're going to be undertaking for the current school year. So what is PBIS? It's positive behavioral interventions and supports. We've been working on implementing it. This is our 3rd year in the district for working on this. It's not a curriculum, it's an evidence-based framework that is used for supporting positive school culture. And there's a big emphasis, rightly so, on promoting social emotional skills, promoting desired behaviors, and preventing challenging behaviors. It's embedded in a lot of research. We know that it is very effective in decreasing challenging behaviors. But more than that, it also helps with increasing test scores, increasing student grades, increasing teacher satisfaction, family satisfaction, decreasing turnover of staff, things like that. It is a tiered system of intervention. So you see that triangle here. Tier 1 supports there are provided to all students. So everyone in an entire school has access to and receives Tier 1 supports. There are a lot of different elements of that. Matt mentioned Toolbox. That would be a Tier 1 support because it's something that we're working on providing to all students. Other elements of that we've really been concentrating on over the past 2 years have been having very clear behavior expectations. If you've been on our campus, you probably have seen posters and banners that talk about being safe, being responsible, being respectful, some variation of those. So those are our core values. Each school has developed their own behavior expectations. And then we have tied that very carefully to specific behaviors where we've defined what does being safe look like in the walkways, or what does being respectful look like during assembly. So we're working with the students to provide very clear ideas of what that means. And then we also have reinforcement systems, usually in the form of tickets, that we are providing to students as a way of reinforcing them for following those expectations. Within Tier 1, we also have a discipline and referral process. So we have a written referral system where we're collecting data to determine what kinds of behaviors we're concerned about, where they're happening, when they're happening. And we also have a behavior flow chart that we can all access, where we gives us information about how we might respond to student behaviors, with an emphasis not on negative consequences, but on really teaching and correcting our students. I had mentioned data, so PBIS has as one of its really important tenets, it's a data-based decision-making process. So we have access to the school-wide information system, which is called SWIS. And there we're collecting data in Tier 1 to determine where do we need to concentrate our efforts. So what do we need to do? Where are looking for patterns of concerns so that we can we can concentrate our efforts in certain places. So for example, we might see that most of our referrals are for second graders who are demonstrating aggression on the playground. And then we would know that we would need to develop a system there. And we'll be continuing that. Alexis is going to talk about it in remote instruction as well. So the research shows that if we have those tier 1 supports in place, that we are going to be meeting the needs of 80% of our students. So 80% of the kids are not going to be demonstrating challenging behaviors, and they're going to have the social emotional skills that we want to see them have. There are going to be about 20% of the students, however, who still need something more, not something instead of those tier 1 supports, but another layer of support in addition to the tier 1 supports. So here too, we're using our Swiss data to determine who needs an additional layer of support. And we have a couple of systems there that we can access. One is check-in, check-out, which is where we are having students identified as needing that additional support receive individualized ratings paired with those behavioral expectations. And most importantly, they're paired with a check-in, check-out coordinator who touches base with them every morning, first thing in the morning, at the end of the day. And they really are there to provide support, encouragement, and reinforcement. And then as Matt mentioned, we also have the social skills curriculum of Strong Kids that we have access to. And we are going to be identifying those students who need that other layer of support. And then we can have them in small groups have access to those social skill lessons. And so then we have, if we have those 2 layers in place with fidelity, there's still going to be 3 to 5% of students who are demonstrating challenging behaviors that are really significant, and they need those intensive levels of support. And that's usually completed via completing functional behavior assessments and behavior support plans. So that is a really quick, we could talk, of course, for days about this, really quick summary, and just to give you some background so that then you can see how we're adapting that for distance learning. And Alexis is going to talk about that.
Okay, we are working on defining our behavioral expectations, such as be respectful, be safe, be responsible for the distance learning environments. And this could be like in the Google Meet sessions, small group instruction sessions, independent work time, etc. And then I have one of our school sites example here. So you can see for be respectful, we're encouraging each other and sharing and taking turns, turning off all of our other devices. So we're really being focused when we're doing our distance learning. Then we're working with our families to identify those behavior expectations in the home environment using our home behavior matrix. We are also using our reinforcement ticket systems through Google Classrooms and our other platforms. We're acknowledging students for the positive behaviors, and we're tying those to the specific expectations. So thank you so-and-so for being safe today and only going to the websites that I told you to go to, is one of our examples. Students are then earning individual rewards in their Google Classrooms, or they're joining Google Meet sessions for recognition from their school principals. As Gia mentioned, we are using our Swiss system and we're moving towards tracking our behavior data through paperless referrals. This helps us to identify students who are needing reteaching of those behavior expectations through our tier 1 supports, or students who may need tier 2 support through interventions like our social skills groups, or check in, check out, where they're receiving frequent check-ins from a trusted school adult. And then lastly, our teams are participating in multiple PDs this year to keep improving and developing our practices within PBIS. And Gia is going to share more about that. We're really excited with this direction we're going.
Yeah, so right now, we are going to, over this coming year, we have a series of trainings that we're going to be doing with the Placer County Office of Education. And the focus this year is going to be on trauma and equity. And of course, this is incredibly timely. We know that our students, that we definitely have had students who have experienced trauma in their lives. And I think that with this pandemic and the resulting challenges of children and families feeling isolated or struggling financially or struggling medically. It's really added another layer of trauma for our students, as well as for our families and even for our staff. So here we're going to be participating in those trainings where we'll learn about different types of trauma. We're going to learn about the impact on the brain, because we know that the research has shown very clearly that trauma has long-term physiological impacts, as well as the social emotional impacts. And then very importantly, learning about strategies to help children feel safe, connected, and supported, which during this time is really crucial. The other piece that we're going to be really focusing on is that equity piece, also very timely. And we'll be learning about implicit bias and really taking a look via our Swiss data at our own district to determine what inequities there are in our own system with regard to race or ethnicity or status as a special education student, and then working together to figure out how we can mediate those inequities. So really excited about having that focus this coming year.
Terrific. Thanks, ladies. And now moving on to SOS counseling and team success, I'd like to introduce Angie Scardina, our Rancho Cotati High School assistant principal. Angie, it's all yours.
Hi, good evening, everybody. So I'm just going to give a brief background to our SOS and team success. Currently, the team success, those who've been around a long time, it was at once called Project Success Plus. So I was here when that was in our district, great program, but the focus back then was mostly drugs and alcohol prevention. With the culture changing, time changing, team success has been able to adapt and change to the needs of our students, which has been very beneficial. It is strictly a voluntary program. Kids will get referred to the program or kids will volunteer themselves, but it is a voluntary. It currently serves Rancho Cotati High School, El Camino High School, and Technology High School. We support all students in all aspects of their lives. Again, that's been a huge benefit with the change in the program. The staff has experience working with adolescents and has received that specialized training in prevention and early intervention strategies. The big goal of team success and SOS is prevention. So we want to prevent things from happening, reach those kids, talk to them, give them the resources and the support they need to be successful. This year, the next bullet is what they've changed to adapt to. So we now have a team success substance abuse specialist added to our team with a focus on the mental health substance use issues. So that will be Flash Welch. So you've all met him in the past. He's now stepping up and taking that lead and doing it amongst a lot of districts in our county. We have an SOS project manager and again, a team success project manager. The big difference between the two is team success is where they are going to meet individually or in small groups. And we're doing that all through Zoom right now and a telehealth that they use. And then the SOS is more the individual long-term counseling. So if kids come in and might need that long-term, 8 sessions, then they'll probably get referred to SOS. Team success is meant for more of those individual quick check-ins, maybe refer to SOS, and then also again, those small groups. We have 2 interns that also work under the team success project manager. The interns are supervised by a licensed marriage and family therapist. These are just a few examples. I wanted to give you a range of services. They do a lot at our 3 high schools. They will conduct individual screenings, provide referrals out to either SOS or to other outside agencies, provide individual counseling and facilitate those support groups. We will have groups on stress. We'll have support groups on children of addicts, many different topics. Meet with students individually and in small groups for education and prevention activities. These are really great to come into a classroom. I know in distance learning, so Flash is going to try to do some virtually with classes, but it is great where his personality talks to the kids in a classroom, working with the classroom teacher and just working together on those issues and teaching our students. Community activities to raise awareness. Again, Flash has coordinated team success over the years. We have done some middle school reach and where we've gone to the middle schools. I remember at Tech Middle a few years ago, our Team Success students in a club, went out and taught the middle schools about bullying and different things to look for, and how to treat everybody with respect and equity and fairness. So it was really heartwarming to watch our high school kids teach our middle school students. So that is something that we do try to do twice a year. Obviously, it'll be a little bit more difficult in the distance learning, but we have goals to either do webinars or small group Google Meets, etc. But again, that kind of sums up everything. If anybody has questions, I would like to thank the board, as Team Success is something that you do fund, and I want to thank you and appreciate all that. Years ago, when we first started this, it was funded by the county and the Sonoma County Mental Health Organization, but now due to obviously over the years, we've lost that funding. So I really, really appreciate the board giving us the funds to keep this program going and to help all of our students. So thank you.
Thank you, Angie. And that's it for our presentation. If you have any questions, please let us know.
Thanks, Matt. Anyone have questions?
Okay, well, thank you very much. It was our pleasure to present to the Board of Trustees tonight, and I hope everyone has a great evening.
Great, thank you. So we'll go on to 6, public comment. Myra, do we have any public comment?
Yes, we do have 3 public comment, and Dr. Senior is going to read one, and I'm going to read a couple.
Okay.
So if you would like us to start.
Please.
Okay. Comment was submitted by Catherine Winters. Thank you for all you are doing to support educational instruction during the challenge presented during COVID epidemic. However, I am seeing firsthand that the demands for remote learning class instructional online hours are excessive and causing frustration with educators, students, and adults supporting the students in remote learning. The model is not working based on the infrastructure and Chromebooks we currently have. I'm writing this to support my grandson and his mom, who is the adult supporting his remote learning. The school district he is enrolled in, the Cotati-Rohnert Park Unified School District, and the school he attends, Lawrence Jones Middle School, does not have the infrastructure or Chromebook models to support this teaching model. Students continually have technical problems with Wi-Fi and the devices, which create continual instructional and communication issues that do not allow the students to participate and complete the assignments and projects. My daughter is very tech savvy, and as is my grandson. He is an honor student who is very self-motivated and in an accelerated program, and I am watching as he is becoming disillusioned, stressed, and discouraged. I'm working into the night and try to keep up because of the unreliable and inadequate hardware and Wi-Fi structures. My daughter is overwhelmed trying to support him. I would like you to reevaluate the current educational model, making it reflect one that is achievable, flexible, and does not create impossible demands on students, parents, and educators. Sincerely, Catherine Winters.
Thank you.
The next comment is from Amy Miller. Good evening, everyone. I was dismayed and disappointed to learn that our elementary school part-time counselors are only permitted to see students who have counseling requirements written into their IEP or 504 plans. As I am sure you are aware, there are students who don't have those services who are experiencing trauma, stress, or other emotional discomfort, especially during this current unprecedented time. After learning this information, I started thinking about how 2 of our elementary sites share an assistant principal, and I don't believe any other elementary sites have one. An assistant principal can provide additional support in the form of social emotional groups, etc. I am guessing that Monte Vista and Evergreen were chosen because they have higher numbers of students. However, without the ability to refer students who don't have an IEP or 504 to a counselor, Title I schools, such as Thomas Page Academy, are left without any alternative since we do not have an assistant principal. It feels like numbers are outweighing need. My hope is that the district can revisit the decision to limit accessibility to counseling and/or that more support services can be provided. Thank you for your time.
This last comment, this does not have, a name was not provided. I am frustrated that the actual online instruction is extremely limited. No matter how long my LJMS student is supported to be in school, 8th grade student supported to be in school, he is inevitably done by 10:45. Once again, he has minimal and very lightweight assignments that are nothing more than busy work for the most part. Why is every teacher not giving full-length live classes online? And that concludes public comment.
Sure. Thank you very much. So we'll go to communications, 7A, student board member reports. Do we have our student board members present? Is Addison there?
Yep,
You want to go first, please?
sure. Good evening, everyone. Our ASB team kicked off the start of the school year with a freshman scavenger hunt as a way to show new students around all our school platforms. Through these social media platforms, ASB members and teachers gave our freshmen clues to help solve various tasks, leading to the end prize of their very own tech high lanyard. Overall, the event went over very well, and the freshmen had a blast. Even if there were some minor technological glitches, our ASB team got to strengthen their leadership skills and create a welcoming atmosphere for all. Currently, ASB is beginning to work with committees to start up the new year and prepare for several upcoming events. As of right now, we have a spirit committee, a marketing committee, a canned food drive committee, a student store committee, and a club rush committee. Our spirit committee is currently planning Spirit Day events and classroom competitions, using the Google Classroom form to share grade-specific information. As for the canned food drive committee, we are currently in the beginning planning stages of an event, as several factors, including our remote working environment, are making it a little harder to plan. Our student store committee is currently working on a way to process spiritware with as little contact as possible and is using Sign Up Genius as a method of inventory count. Plans for ordering spiritware will be released out soon. Our final current committee is our Club Rush committee, which will showcase student-run clubs for all students interested in joining ones based on their topic of choice. Intent to charter forms allowing clubs to represent themselves at this event have been shared out to all students in several ways, and signups are due in a week from now. Representatives will be asked to create short videos detailing their club's overall purpose and will be asked to present information during the Club Rush Google Meet. These presentation dates, as well as the Club Rush's overall date, will be released soon. For PTSA, there will be a drive to get students to sign up for PTSA membership, which will in turn allow students to vote as PTSA members and ask for funding from the group. In addition to this, our school has been hosting back to school nights and college visits via Google Meets and Zoom. So far, we have done 9th and 12th grade back to school nights with a night dedicated to math subjects and electives. Sophomores are having their BTS night this Wednesday, and the final BTS night is happening next week for 11th grade. During these meets, our counselor, Ms. Bowman, has a presentation for these students and is followed with a meet and greet with teachers. So far, everything has been going really smoothly. Ms. Bowman has also been organizing college visits for students, where in small Zoom meets, college representatives present to potential students information about their college. Ohio Wesleyan University, Whitman College, Bard College, and UC Santa Cruz and San Diego will be visiting THS over the rest of this month. Now that everyone has begun to adjust in our new situation, we have been faced with new challenges that have also been given new opportunities. For students, now has never been a good time to help out the community, build clubs, or lead an ASB, as remote work and communication has streamlined our world. As for our teachers, Google Classroom and other educational resources have made distance learning just a little bit easier. I want to thank everyone who's helped keep our school running this far, and I'm excited to see what's to come. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Addison. Reagan?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This past month has been very eventful for Ejokatati. While students settle into online learning, ASB has been finding ways to continue on school traditions like rallies. Last Friday, our rally commissioners threw an amazing virtual rally. A few minutes before the rally began, a link was posted to Minga for students to use to log on to a Google Meet. The entire rally was held over the Google Meet, and it actually went very smooth.
Reagan, is your
although-
connection, I'm sorry, is your
although
connection okay?
Students are kept engaged with the game of
Your connection seems garbled. I don't know. Are you okay on your, what's going on?
About
You want to, am I the only one that was hearing that, or was it broken up?
That's very broken up.
Yeah. So we need to, where's our IT person? Help. Help. Do you want to start again and we'll see how it is, if it's still, it's kind of, if your connection is not working?
Yeah, can you guys see and hear me right now? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Right. So this past month has been very eventful for Rancho Cotati.
Excuse me, Lev, excuse me. Have her turn off her video.
Okay.
Audio only, please.
Okay.
Finding ways.
Did you get that, Reagan?
Yes, she heard.
Okay. See how that works. We'll just go with your audio and we won't be able to see your face. Okay. Let's try that.
This past. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry, you guys.
That's much
this
better.
past month has been very eventful for Rancho Cotati. While students settle into online learning, ASB has been finding ways to ASB has been finding ways to continue on school traditions like rallies. Last Friday, our rally commissioners threw an amazing virtual rally. A few minutes before it began, a link was posted to media for students to use to sign into a Google Meet, and that is where the entire rally was held, and it went very smooth. Our fellow students were kept engaged with a game of Kahoot. The Kahoot had trivia about teachers, Rancho's history, and pop culture. We had a Spirit Week planned by our Spirit Commissioners leading up to the rally. Students who dressed up could post them on Minga and receive Spirit points for their class. Last Wednesday, a virtual clubs rest was held. Every year, Rancho holds a clubs rest in the quad to not only get students involved, but also give them information on the types of programs and clubs our campus has to offer. Although being held online, the turnout was great. Not only did ASB receive quite a few clubs applications, but students showed up virtually, of course, and joined clubs. There was a really great turnout for clubs this year. I thought I would walk you through what a day looks like for me while being a senior during a pandemic. So every morning I wake up at 7:30 and I get ready for ASB, since ASB is a 0-period class. I'm finished with all my classes by 9:45 because I don't have a third period. If I did, I'd be done at 10:30. During class, there's usually a lot of teachers talking, and then the students are getting engaged by responding to them or answering questions in the comments. So we'll type them and the teacher will respond. This is a good way for students to get participation points and quick feedback from the teacher during class in an organized manner. And then after that,
Oh, we lost you completely. Reagan?
yeah,
Okay, are you back? You disappeared there for a little bit.
yeah, I'm sorry. Did you guys, did I cut off? Like, what was the last thing you guys heard? If you can remember, if not, that's okay.
Someone want to chime in?
Sure. You were talking about if you had finished, if you had 3 periods, you would have finished at 10:30 and then it stopped right there.
Oh, I see. Okay. during class, there's usually a lot of the teacher talking, and then the students get engaged by responding in the comments. And this is a good way for students to get participation points and quick feedback from the teacher during class in an organized manner. And then that's all I have.
Great. Thank you very much. We will go on to 7B, Roanoke Park Cotati Educators Association report. Is Emily King going to do that today?
I am. I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can.
All right. Great job, Reagan. Good job sticking with it. Sometimes that happens. All right. Good evening, President Trustee Brown, members of the school board, and Superintendent Perez. I am happy to report that we survived the first month of school. Despite rolling blackouts, lightning storms, fires, evacuations, smoke, a pandemic, and the ongoing anxiety and trauma that all of that brings, CRPUSD made it happen this month. Everyone is working so hard to support our students and provide the best possible learning experience in this challenging time, and I'm so humbled to be a part of this amazing, dedicated team. Now that we are in the 6th week of school, we can start to see what is working and what our challenges are. From an educator perspective, we are so thankful that our students have access to personal devices and hotspots. This allows us to connect with our students daily, collaborate with parents, and provide lessons and materials digitally. We know the IT department is working incredibly hard to roll out all the technology and provide support, and we want to thank them for their tireless work. Our educators are also feeling supported by their principals and admins and their colleagues. Many of our teachers are working together to share the load of planning and creating content for distance learning. Principals have worked with the district administration to facilitate the purchase and use of new programs like Seesaw, Newsela, and Edpuzzle. And despite the challenges of distance learning, one of the positive outcomes is the innovation that is providing new ways for instruction and connection. For the most part, we as educators are really excited for all these new tools. However, the steep learning curve does make this a daunting task. Another area that seems to be working well is communication with families. Educators are using common platforms like Google Classroom to communicate with students, and also holding small group meetings and office hours to provide more direct instruction. Our members feel like they have developed a real partnership with families. Of course, all of this is incredibly time consuming though. Some of our members have reported that they are working up to 12 hours a day and on weekends. This brings us to some of the challenges that we are facing. One of the biggest challenges is the onslaught of so many new programs and ideas. It often feels like there's a fire hose of information being directed at us. We're trying to convert lessons, learn new platforms, engage students, track attendance, and somehow manage to assess and grade all at the same time. Our educators are experiencing a tech overload, and many are very anxious about how to manage such an overwhelming amount of work while also learning new programs. One thing that would help would be more dedicated time for training and co-planning. We also discussed with Dr. Perez and Dr. Senior the idea of having a few tech leads at each site. These would be tech savvy teachers who could assist the staff at their site and help troubleshoot. They could also meet together to discuss ongoing issues and solutions and communicate with the IT department. We discussed that this could be an extra duty assignment so that these individuals could be compensated for their work, and we hope this is something that can be implemented soon. Another issue we're experiencing is the limitation of Google Meet platform. It seems like Google overpromised and somewhat underdelivered with the capabilities of Google Meet. Students and teachers get kicked off meetings quite often, which makes our lessons choppy and sometimes not as effective. And in addition, we are still waiting on a way to easily take attendance and do breakout rooms. Our staff are spending a lot of precious time trying to find workarounds, but this continues to be a challenge. It is clear that other platforms like Zoom, which are used for this board meeting today, are more suited to the needs of e-learning. Another concern is the well-being of our educators. When asked to describe their feelings or mood at the end of most workdays, some of the words our members used were anxious, exhausted, fragmented, overwhelmed, discouraged, and defeated. To be fair, some also said they were satisfied and felt accomplished. And often it depends on the day. Nevertheless, the clear message is that the workload is not sustainable and that our staff are struggling. We understand that our current situation is not permanent, but our educators need support. Some ideas on how to accomplish this are to provide paraprofessional assistance for our combination class teachers, schedule some time for teachers to work without set meetings, directives, or reports to accomplish, and provide guidance on which standards to focus on during distance learning, and offer mental health support. Overall, our members are tired, but they are also driven to do their best. As educators, we can see how hard this is on our students and their families, and it breaks our hearts not to be in the classroom with the kids, where we can read their faces, give high fives, and check in on them with them on a more personal level. We want to be able to support our students as best as possible. We know that is what the district wants too, and we are appreciative of their willingness to hear our concerns and continue to work towards solutions together. The last item I want to speak about tonight is Proposition 15, which is also known as Schools and Communities First. This proposition is on the November ballot. Last week, RIPSIA, Roanoke Park Dottie Educators Association, voted to endorse Prop 15, and I want to ask the Board of Trustees to join us and also show your support. Earlier today, I emailed you all a sample resolution, and I hope you will consider adopting something like this at the next board meeting. Prop 15 closes the loopholes by requiring non-residential commercial and industrial property to be reassessed based on its actual fair market value. The fair market value standard is used in nearly every other state to assess commercial and industrial property. Prop 15 exempts small businesses and cuts their taxes to help them recover and rebuild. And Prop 15 maintains full Prop 13 protections for homeowners and renters by exempting all residential property. The large share of Prop 15's revenues will go to local schools, public charter schools, and community college. This will provide schools with additional resources to meet challenges from the pandemic, while also helping lower class size and reduce racial and economic inequalities in educational funding. For CRP-USD, this would result in over $3.5 million in funding. This would be a huge benefit to our community and help us resolve our current budget issues. The funding would provide local control to be put towards teachers, classroom aides, books, computers, supplies for in-person and distance learning, breakfast and lunch programs, nurses, and healthcare service for students, special education, art, music, and sports programs. In addition to education, Prop 15 will also provide funding for healthcare services, for addressing homelessness, and also for preparing for future disasters. The past 6 months have revealed the need for us to strengthen our communities and come together. And Prop 15 will provide the funding that will allow for us to recover and rebuild in ways that will be more inclusive and equitable. I hope you will join RIPSIA and put our schools and communities first. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. We'll go to 7C, receipt of official correspondence. Ira?
There is no correspondence tonight.
Okay. So then we'll go to 8, the consent agenda. So do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We'll go on to Education Services. 9A, waiver of community service graduation requirements. Who has this one?
I do. I'm going to take that one. So I'm coming before you tonight to ask to waive our current graduation requirement of community service hours for our students at El Camino, Tech High, and at Rancho Cotati High School as well. Unfortunately, with the COVID pandemic, it is really challenging for our students to earn their community service hours. We want to ensure the safety of our students at all times, and putting them in the community at this time is just not a safe issue. So as we did in the 1920 school year, I'm requesting that we waive the requirements for the 2021 school year as well.
So, any questions on this? So one question is, high school students have 4 years to accumulate 40 hours, right?
Yes.
say life gets back to normal, are we gonna try to, in a year, let's say everything is wonderful, and we go back to the thing, are we gonna prorate the number of hours for those students only in high school for 2 years?
Oh, great question. Great question. That's something we'll have to decide. We'll bring that back to the board to see if that's the direction the board would like to move.
Okay. In worst case scenario, this goes on for 2 years and then we go back to normal. You have a senior that hasn't been able to make up 40 hours. To do a little bit more difficult. Okay, any other questions, other board members?
Nope, I had the same question you just asked.
Okay. All right, well, if not, I have a motion to accept the waiver of community service graduation requirements. Please.
So moved.
Have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Go to 9B, public hearing regarding sufficiency of instructional materials. Julie, do you have this?
I do. Again, yes, this is the instructional materials public hearing. So President Brown, if you don't mind opening the public hearing,
Okay.
that would be fantastic.
Public hearing. And hearing no comment, we will close the public hearing. So then we'll go on to 9C, Resolution 2021-6, determining sufficiency of instructional materials.
And this is brought to you every year. Again, asking that we approve this, the sufficiency of instructional materials resolution. Again, we have sufficient materials for our students in Cotati Rohnert Park.
How is this different this year since we're doing distant learning?
Great question. We still have the same materials that we've always had. And in addition, through the service contracts that you have approved, we actually have additional resources for our students at this time. So while we still have the print and paper texts that students have access to, we also have a number of new online materials and tools for the students to utilize.
Okay, great, thank you. Other questions? If not, may I have a motion to approve resolution 2021-6?
So moved.
We have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
trustee Chimino,
Yes.
trustee Gillis,
Yes.
trustee Nahn,
Yes.
trustee Wilchermuth.
Yes.
Okay, we'll go to 9D, public hearing for the learning continuity and attendance plan. So we are opening up that hearing. Hearing no questions or response, we will close that hearing.
Great, thank you. And I would like to present a bit of an overview of the learning continuity plan for the board at this time.
Okay.
And Kirby, can you hit the slide, please? So this just a little refresher. Our local control accountability plan was put on hold for the 2021 school year. And in addition to the written COVID report we did back in June, another requirement was to create this learning continuity and attendance plan. Next slide, please. This plan was created by Senate Bill 98, and it was basically to determine how districts were planning for distance learning, hybrid learning, and in-person learning. So the plan addresses the process that we've gone through to come to where we are today. We have been focused on supporting instruction, social emotional learning, and re-engagement. Re-engagement basically specifying when students are not attending their Google Meets or not checking in and doing their assignments, how we are re-engaging with them to participate in their learning. The plan discusses safety protocols and measures, and a big component of the plan was to get a ton of stakeholder feedback through surveys, focus groups, meetings, and we have accomplished that. Next slide, please. The categories that we need to address in the plan are stakeholder engagement, in-person instructional offerings, distance learning, pupil learning loss, and that refers to in the spring, if there's concerns that there was a gap in knowledge, how we're addressing those gaps in knowledge, mental health and social emotional well-being, pupil and family re-engagement and outreach, school nutrition, additional activities for our unduplicated students, and increased or improved services. Next slide. To talk about some of the stakeholder feedback and engagement that we have used, we've held 4 task force meetings. Our task force had roughly 60 participants on the team, basically school employees ranging from classified staff, certificated staff, school administrators, nurses, and we really tried to tackle some of the issues that were happening throughout the summer, what our schedules were going to look like, how we were going to feed our children, the health and safety protocols to use while we're cleaning our classrooms, technology distribution, and kind of general operations and working with the YMCA for daycare. Next slide, please. Through a number of parent surveys, and again, I want to thank the community. We received an overwhelming, largest survey responses that we've had in our 2 parent surveys that have gone out. We have surveyed our students. Our staff has been very reflective and shared their concerns with us. We have met with our district English language advisory committee to review our plan and get feedback from them. Last night, we held our parent advisory committee review meeting and got a great deal of feedback from our families, and also through our board meetings and the number of public comments we had in terms of reopening school. Next slide, please. In our initial survey, the 6 key areas kind of came up that were of great concern and areas for improvement. The first one was instruction. The request from our families and students was more consistent daily access to teachers and more help with progress monitoring. Parents really want to partner with us to try and help support their students, but they need to kind of know what's going on in power schools to best support their kiddos. Technology, while the IT team did an amazing job last year distributing technology, there were still concerns, and thanks to the board for kind of basically agreeing to go one-to-one, we've been able to provide our students with one-to-one technology and hotspots for everyone who needed those. Communication, frequent and timely, and one of the big feedback things that we're still hearing, and we've heard it tonight too, if Google Classrooms are getting dropped off or somebody can't get their Wi-Fi access, letting the teachers know about that and kind of being advocating for that and just having that flexibility, because we all know that there's struggles with technology. Equity, how we are providing additional opportunities for students, again, our English language learners, special needs students, and low-income students of concern. There's a big push to make sure that in distance learning, we still can create this amazing sense of community that Katati Rohnert Park has established always in the past and create these personal connections, and to also increase our supports. And as you've heard from our Director of Student Services, Mr. Marshall, and his team tonight, really what these mental health supports and professional development protocols are all about. Next slide, please. For our in-person instructional learning, we've detailed what safety protocols need to occur. There is still some more work that needs to be done with our labor partners regarding this, but we have adequate plans. We are following state and local guidance, and when we come back to school, our students and teachers will be safe. We have a great response to potential COVID-19 infections. We have a solid process of notification, contact tracing, and we've really detailed that and worked that out. And again, continuing with our schedules and what those will still do on our work with the hybrid. When we move to hybrid, the schedule work needs to have some more work done with our labor partners. Next slide, please. As Governor Newsom created a new kind of monitoring system, here is just a quick snapshot. This is from the new blueprint for a safer economy. Right now, Sonoma County is in the purple, kind of this purple tier up top. When we move to the red tier, that's when we can reconsider reopening, and we will kind of continue to monitor this process. Next slide, please. This new Safer Economy Blueprint document shows a lot of information, and basically when we do open, again, we must follow the guidelines that are specified in here, which we absolutely will. Next slide, please. Our distance learning program, as everyone is experiencing right now, devices and hotspots have been provided for everyone. Our IT team has been incredible responding to parent concerns, teacher concerns, issues with logging on and logging off. And I can't thank the IT team enough for helping our families navigate distance learning. We've had our synchronous and asynchronous learning documented through our Google Classrooms, attendance taking, and we're still working on that, but we're getting really close. Here's our minutes. There's been some questions about the minutes of asynchronous and synchronous learning, but those are detailed in the plan. And again, working on our re-engagement strategies. Next slide, please. One of the big areas that we're focusing on is addressing learning loss and how we're intervening for students who may not be successful at grade level. And so we are using our benchmark assessments. We are following up, as you've heard, with check-in, check-out systems, making sure that our students are experiencing the success that they need to in the classroom. We are also making sure that we are providing resources for food, housing, and medical attention if necessary. We have been very fortunate with our community partners and really working as a team, and that's been wonderful. The effectiveness of our strategies are monitored through attendance, through academic screening and assessment. If students are falling for grades, we can quickly monitor that. Our counselors are letting us know if kiddos need additional support, and teachers have been incredible about alerting us if there's concerns. Next slide, please. The mental health and social emotional well-being of our students is paramount. As you've heard from our Director of Student Services previously, there's a lot of wonderful things that are going on to help support our students. And again, with the positive environments in the classrooms and really trying to build that sense of community, focusing on trauma-informed practices, working with community partners such as Child Parent Institute and Team Success, and utilizing our community resources. Next slide, please. Again, the big concern is pupil and family engagement and outreach. We want to make sure we know that this distance learning is a challenge to our families. We have heard that loud and clear. While there have been wonderful things that have happened, and for some of the feedback we've had that, compared to the end of last year, the amount of instruction has been, night and day, and there's a lot of kudos around that. Still room to grow, but really ensuring that teachers are engaging with their students. Outreach, our administrators, our staff, if kids aren't coming to school, we're making those phone calls, the home visits, and creating these corrective plans of action. We will also utilize our student attendance review board system for students who are failing to find success even through our plans. And this is going to be continuously monitored with our student services team and site administrators. Next slide, please. And school nutrition, a wonderful news as of September 1st, the USDA allowed for a continuance of the Seamless Summer Program. So now any student under the age of 18 may come and get a meal free of charge. We are offering this service 3 times a week at Rancho Cotati High School, Technology Middle School, and Lawrence Jones Middle School. And we are partnering with the Redwood Empire Food Bank on Wednesdays. And so that's kind of the brief overview of what this plan entails, more detailed information in the plan, and can I address any questions or concerns anyone might have?
Julie, where can I find the plan on the website? I went to the LCFF and LCAP on the district website, and the data out there is from the 2013-14 school year.
It should be on the front page. It should be a news link right on the front page.
Okay.
I'm sorry, because it's confusing. I apologize. They came up with the same acronyms, the Local Control Accountability Plan and the Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan. So I apologize. It should be on the front page.
I'm trying to find it, but that's okay. I'll keep looking.
Thank you, Julie. Other questions? Okay. That was a hearing and information. So go on to 9E, approval of educational services contracts for the year 2020, 2021.
And this is my last item for the evening. This is in addition from the Newsella contract that we approved last meeting. The cost was, there was an increase to the cost as we asked for a few additional services. So I'm asking for an additional $14,000 to round out the rest of the News Ella contract.
Questions, anybody? Everybody? I think we're good.
Great, thank you.
May I have a motion to, okay, a motion, a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, we will go, we've already done 10A, so we will go to 11A, fiscal updates and planning. That's you, Robert.
Okay, so we have the standing items on here that I wanted to walk through. The first one under budget information, we have the budget summary report. I think the thing that I wanted to make note of on here is the first column is reflective of the 45-day budget revision. So that would be like our comparison or our starting point, and then we're comparing that to any changes through August 31st, 2020. And we basically had very minimal changes to the budget at that point. The other part I wanted to focus on was the beginning balance under the above the 8/31/2020 column. That is actually the new adjusted beginning balance for the general fund that did increase. So we wanted to make sure that we captured that in this document. And this would be part of the unaudited actuals that we'll be looking at next. We continue to maintain the minimum 4% reserve and in this document. The next item that I wanted to talk about was cash deferrals. So as we went through and we discussed not only the adopted budget and the May revision, that was based on the final state budget did pull back on the large cuts from the state that we were looking at budget adoption. But in order for them to fund that or to have money available, they came back with a little gimmickry on their way that they did that, and that's through cash deferrals. And the way that the state is doing it is basically they're able to not pay school districts money that they owe this year and push that cash out to next year, and they get to count it towards next year's budget. So that was the way they were able to do that. So what that does for us, though, and every school district in the state is create a very severe cash shortage. And there's a few ways that we can deal with that. One of that is borrowing from other funds, and we also do some borrowing from the county treasurer. We normally do those every year. The board approved resolutions for those in June. However, with the level of deferrals that we're looking at, it will not be sufficient for us to have cash on June 30th. So we are currently looking and exploring cash deferrals. Generally, there was like one option out there, but now there's actually 3 options, one through CSBA. The state of California is actually working together with some banks to put one together. And then our county office of ed is also doing one. So we're going to be looking at all 3 of those, and we will come back to the board with a recommendation, which we feel will be the best option for that. The downside to cash deferrals, it is borrowing money, and there will be a cost of issuance. So it costs us money to do this, but it is absolutely necessary that we have a positive cash in the general fund on June 30th.
Robert, do you have an estimate of what this will cost us?
I do not. So each one is going to be a little bit different, and it's going to really depend on the size of the pool and the cost of borrowing that money. So there's a lot of factors we don't know yet, but we do know certainly it's going to cost us something. So that'll be part of what we bring forward to the board when we know more.
Do we know when we'll find that out? I'm just curious.
Well, we're starting to look at that now. The deferrals will start kicking in February. That's when we get our first non-payment from the state. But we're looking at all 3 options now. I think we're going to apply for one of them, or just to get the application done, so we leave our options open. And again, we'll be bringing back a recommendation to the board.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So the next item on this agenda is on Budget Committee update, and Dr. Perez, would you like to take that one?
Yes, we have identified our different representatives that we have for the budget committee. Our first budget committee will be next week on Thursday at 4 p.m. and we have notified our budget committee. So we're set to go. And I'll be working with Mr. Maricol to develop that agenda. The first meeting will be an overview since we do have some new members. Any questions for me?
Guess not.
Okay, item 2 on this agenda item is the enrollment report. And you probably noticed there is not a report attached. So one of the things we don't have the data complete yet. I think under the current environment, we're still trying to make sure and ensure that if a student's not showing up for distance learning, that they indeed should be dropped. So we're still working through that. We don't have information that we felt confident enough to bring forward to the board. Our goal is to bring something to next week's meeting and give you some update on what our enrollment numbers are at that time.
So here's a question I have. So if I'm a teacher with X amount of students that maybe goes over the limit that I'm supposed to be teaching, how do we confirm that a teacher has that many students? Do we have any way of knowing that?
Well, we will, and I think that what the data you're talking about is probably a little different than what we're looking at in our system for actual enrollment. And then we don't pay out the overages just yet, so we will make sure that those numbers are confirmed prior to those payments going out for any overages per the contract. We just don't have the data we have right now. We still feel like there needs to be a little bit more work to make sure that we're presenting accurate numbers to the board.
Okay, thank you.
So are all teachers taking attendance through Power Schools?
Yes.
Okay, and so of the students so I just want to be clear, Robert, you're saying that there's some students that haven't come yet to distance learning, and we don't know if they are just not doing distance learning or if they have dropped out of the district. Is that what you were saying?
That's correct. One of the things that we generally get is a request for a CUME file that ensures us that that student indeed has moved to another district. And so we're just still working through some of that to ensure that we have correct data.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And then the other thing is our enrollment revenue is kind of frozen, correct, because of the COVID?
That's correct. So remember, we have the hold harmless on the ADA. I think the only thing that could be a positive for us is if somehow we ended up with more students or an increase in students. We would not get additional funding, but I believe we're looking at that a little bit closer because I believe that the fact that we're basing things on current and prior year. Remember, we were losing some money as a result of that. We may actually gain a little bit back on that, but we're looking at that now. But again, we want to make sure that we are indeed, if we are flat or growing, we want to make sure that those numbers are accurate.
Great, thank you.
The last one on this item is number 6, the facilities update. So we wanted to let the board know that at the October meeting, we will be presenting an update on the bond fund that will include our cash balances, projects that we have completed, what we owe, and what projects that we still have to fund in the future. We want to make sure we have money for. With that, our goal also is to have that final accounting of the tag building that was requested a few months back. So that'll be in the October meeting.
Question,
Robert, where are we at with the field?
Yeah. was gonna ask the same question.
Last that I heard, we are still on target, and I don't remember. I think that December was the date on that. I haven't heard any different at this point.
I thought it was going to be starting in August. Did I miss something?
I believe the project's already moving. There's work already being done over there.
Okay. And then what's going on over, do we know where we are at Evergreen?
Yeah, that project is also moving. And as far as we're still on to the timetable for both of those projects.
Okay. So when you present the bond stuff to us, can Josh be made available so we could ask questions if we need to?
Oh, absolutely. I will need my partner there to help me along with this. So.
Okay. Great. Thank you. And
Sure.
then do we need to, when was our last facilities meeting? It was like April, right? Something like that?
Yeah, I think at that time we met actually out at Rancho as before that and kind of toured what we needed to have done. We have no projects currently that are slated to move forward that we felt we needed to bring the committee together for.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. So the next agenda item. Something we did we? I'm confused. 11B.
That is correct.
2020 unaudited actuals financial report.
That is correct.
Okay.
So Mr. Kirby, if you can bring up my presentation, please. So I put together a presentation for the board on unaudited actuals. You should have received a full copy, a full packet of that in our, and I jokingly say user-friendly SACS form. But that is what the board does approve and what we're required to present to the board. But the hopes of this presentation is to kind of bring some keys to that in a simplified form. Next slide, please. So the unaudited actuals, this is the final report for 2019-20. So last fiscal year, and it is as of June 30th, 2020. The key to this is it's not based on budget amounts, but on actual revenues, actual expenses. What the board sees throughout the year is all budget information. Those are our I'm going to say best guess, but it's all based on assumptions and updated information that we know. So this is the final numbers for 1920. Forward, please. And in that form, again, it's not very user-friendly, but these are the components in there. I'm not going to go over each one of those other than to say for the format that you for the general fund, it basically will list the 1920 actuals and comparing that to the 2021 adopted budget, and it does that for each fund. The thing I also want to make sure the board is aware of is the 2021 is based on the adopted budget. And that budget, as we know, but because we had at that time when it was based on having to do the 45-day budget revision, does not reflect our actual budget for 2021. However, that is what we have to present in this report. Next slide. And we're required to submit the unaudited actuals to our county office by September 15th. So we'll get it to them tomorrow after the board approves it. Our auditors will be in to do the final stage of the audit on November 16th. And they are conducting the audit remotely. So that's a little bit more challenging for all involved. And then the draft copy, we get a draft copy of that for review in December, and then it'll be presented board in January for approval. Next slide. So I wanted to have a couple quick notes on 2019-20, what makes it unique. As we all know, 2019 has proven to be a very challenging year, especially in light of COVID-19. Our school closures in March did result in less spending in areas such as subcost, extra hire, supplies, and utilities. Federal CARES funds were used to offset increased costs in PPE and cleaning supplies. It is interesting, though, that while our utilities did decrease in the sense of what we were expecting for the year. In other words, we had budgeted a higher amount and we were able to capture some savings. But overall, our utilities increased by $20,000 from last year. So if we would have continued on the regular mode with our utility costs, there would have been an increase in particularly in PG&E and our gas. Second interim, we're pointing to a balanced budget. We all know that. We've heard that before. The final numbers for our unaudited actuals came in with an increase to the general fund balance of $800,000. And it's always important to distinguish whether it's restricted or unrestricted. And so 648,000 of that was unrestricted. And that may sound like a lot of money, and obviously it is a lot of money, but in the context of a $68 million budget, it's a little over 1% off on that, if you want to use the word off. So percentage-wise, it's a very low number, and part of that is at second interim, we really tightened things up. We were trying to capture every dollar we can, and so that's basically where we ended up. This included carryovers as we normally have, and then as the obvious is, an increase to the unrestricted general fund does build up our reserve, which is helpful, and it'll help us with our reduced state funding starting in 2021 and over the next few years. In other words, it helps build up kind of the bank, you might say, and helps us weather the storm. The increase in the fund balance, however, does not address the level of projected deficit over the next 3 years. And in the Fund 01, the SACS form for 2021 budget, and I mentioned this earlier, it's based on the governor's May revision at adoption and doesn't truly reflect our budget. Next slide. So the slide here basically goes through our general fund revenues and by major category. If you want to move through the slide a little more, Mike, thank you. One more. Thank you. Okay, so we have our major objects there and listing what our revenues are. Next slide. So we get in here and we can see the graph of the same information, and obviously our largest source of revenue is our LCFF sources. That's driven by our enrollment, and that's followed by our local revenues, including our parcel tax in there, and followed by state revenues with that. Next slide. And our revenue sources here, we broke down in this slide, give you a general idea of what those major categories are and what's in there. Obviously, we know LCFF is our biggest part of the pie, and that is based on the LCFF formula, including the money that we get for low-income students, foster youth, and English language learners in our supplemental dollars. State and federal sources, we have the lotteries, both unrestricted, restricted. Our federal dollars are titles, Title 1, 2, 3. We have our Perkins grant, ACEs, and we also get special ed resources from federal sources on that. Local resources, parcel tax, and for 18-19 or 19-20, we were still getting our casino funds. We get foundation donations, pass-through dollars, that type of thing in those categories. Next slide.
Robert, can I ask you a quick question?
Absolutely.
What do we have left on the parcel tax? Do you know offhand?
When you say what do we have left, how long before we have to renew it? 2025.
Okay, so kind of around the corner.
Yes, but we still got a few years on that.
Okay.
Before we
Thank
have to
you.
go back out. STRS on behalf, I'm bringing this up. This is something that we talked about last year, and STRS on behalf is different than our normal STRS contribution that we have to fund as a district, and part of that comes out of going to the state for state teachers' retirement. But STRS on behalf is something that we were required to do back in 14-15. And it was really a new requirement that we wanted to recognize our share of the state's overall liability on our books. And we're mentioning this because it's something we're required to do. And basically what it does is it kind of skews our numbers a little bit. And so I wanted to make note of that. Last year, we also had PERS on behalf, which we never had before in 1819, excuse me. And we also had an increase of state contributions on the STRS. So it was a huge amount last year, 4,260,000. And this year it's down only with STRS. We did not have a PERS, and that was $2.5 million. We booked that as a revenues and expenditures, so it's cost neutral to the budget. But again, it skews our numbers, and so that's why I wanted to make sure we were pointing that out. It'll skew our state revenues and our employee benefit categories on the expenditure side. Next slide. And so these are a couple important slides as we look through. I mean, while we want to say compared to 1819 and to the year we're closing in 1920, what changed in these major categories? And so you can see with this slide here by sources, the major categories, what changed? Well, we did get an increase in LCFF revenues, 2.6%. As you remember, there was COLA applied to that. So we did have increased funding for that, some slight monies in federal, but then we had a decrease in the state revenues. In 1819, we were actually, if you recall, that way back when, we were still getting some one-time dollars. And so we had over $1 million in mandated cost reimbursement, the one-time dollars that we're receiving. So that caused a decrease in our state revenues when you're comparing the 2 years. This is the category also that we excluded the STRS and PERS on behalf numbers, just to give you a better sense of really what happened with that. Next slide. And this is a graph, a 3-year comparison of those major categories. And you can see the largest source, the LCFF, how that had increased over the 3 years that we were looking at from 1718, 1819, 1920. Next slide. Now we get into the expenditures. Just tab through one more time, Mike. Great, thank you. This is our general fund expenditures, and obviously the biggest category is the certificated teacher salaries, followed by the benefits. And we had a 60. I can't actually read it on my screen here. The total expenditures. Next slide. And we can see the same in a graph. We basically, with the certificated salaries, classified salaries, and employee benefits, that accounts for 80% of our budget in those categories. So it doesn't leave a lot in other areas. Next slide. And these are more of a definition of what those major categories are for our expenditures. And I won't go too much into detail on those. The board's used to seeing these categories. Next slide, please. Okay, so here again is the change from 1819 to 1920. A few things I wanted to point out with this slide, and you can see certificated salaries went up 116,000. So none of these have like no straight answer. So there's a lot that go into these categories, but I'll make note of some of the major ones that caused that. So we did have step and column increases. We also did have an increase that was approved by the board for, we changed our salary schedule for the SLPs and the nurses, and that increased the salaries by about $175,000. Remember also the 1819 to 1920, we did cut about 1.5 million out of our budget, and a lot of that was related to staffing. So you're going to see the net effect of that. But overall, we still did increase in certificated salaries. I'm going to skip classified salaries. I'll get to that when I get into operating expenditures. But employee benefits, well, that's our STRS and PERS increase, and health and welfare is the main factors what's driving that. It's a pretty substantial increase of $900,000. Services and operating, well, we dropped $1.5 million. So if you recall, when we had our fiscal recovery plan, it did include some pretty substantial cuts in our contract services, which accounts for that. Part of that decrease also has to do with the casino funding. And in 18-19, we had a one-time expenditure to help fund the Osborne project up with Sonoma State. That was $350,000. We didn't have that in 1920, so it almost made it look like some savings there, but it was a one-time expense in 18-19. One of the other things was happening is with special ed, and this is reflective of, I think, the hard work of Rachel Allen, our director of special ed, and the conscious effort to shift contracted services out of special ed and into the staff. So, for instance, we had a lot of paras that we were contracting out because we couldn't find them. We also had psychologists and whatnot in there, and then we also had students in MPS classes. And some of that shift out of the contracts and into salaries, you'll see reflected in here. So the classified salaries, we can point to the paraprofessionals, and the fact in 18-19 we had a lot more under contract, outside contract, but now we brought them in-house in 1920, and that accounts for a lot of the change in classified salaries. And so overall, we did spend less than what we did in 1920. Next slide, please. So there's a 3-year graph, and you can see the change there in certificated salaries, obviously going up, as well as classified did, which we would expect. But the employee benefits actually dropped. This is one slide that we did not adjust for the STRS and PERS on behalf. So you can kind of see it gives that false sense like we actually spent less on our employee benefits when we did not. We increased by $900,000 in that category. Next slide. And here, this is something we wanted to continue to manage and take a look at. This would be whether we have a deficit, we end the year in a deficit, spending more than what we're bringing in, or did we have a surplus? And the last 2 years prior, you can see that we had a deficit spending of over $400,000 in each of those years. And this year, due to a variety of factors that we talked a little bit about already, we did have an increase in fund balance. So that's good news. Next slide. So here are two areas that did have a pretty substantial increase in. This is where we would see the benefit column, the 3,000 object codes. And we can see that we continue to be impacted by STRS and PERS costs. We went up $418,000 from the prior year with those, and 7.7% increase. And our health and welfare costs also increased pretty substantially. So you can see we pay quite a bit of money for health and welfare, and then the STRS and PERS obviously has a huge impact also. So that's the $820,000 right there in those categories. Next slide. Okay, well, I'll talk a little bit about special ed here, and I think it's important that this is obviously an area that of high dollars in our budget, and so we want to continue to manage, take a look at this and make sure that we're staying on top of it. If you recall, last year at this time when we presented the same information, we were looking at a $1.9 million increase in special ed costs. This is partly what led, had a huge impact on why we had a qualified budget at that time. That was a 15% increase. That was coming off the prior year where we also had a $940,000 increase. So you can see over those 2 years, our special ed costs were going through the roof. And now for 1920, it did go up, but only by 2.3%. So again, I think this is reflective of a lot of the work that Rachel's doing and throughout the district to help us manage these costs. Next slide. This is the same information in a bar graph. You can see that the cost did go up, but again, not quite at the level that it has in the prior years. Next slide. Okay, there's two things I wanted to point out in special ed here, and this kind of shows you the comparison where our spending is, how much are we spending in salaries and benefits compared to contract services. This also includes books and supplies, but it's such a minimal amount, it's not impacting this. So in 18-19, you can see that we had 63.5% in salaries and benefits towards special ed costs, and 36% was in services and operating. And we talked already about some of those reasons why we had those increases. In 1920, you can see those numbers changing. And so we have almost 69% now in salaries and benefits and 31% in contract services. That's important because when we contract out, for whatever reason, whether we can't find anybody or the student has needs beyond what we're capable of providing in district, those are going to be at a higher cost. So the more that we can bring in and properly support within our district, it's going to help us in this area here. Next slide. Okay, this slide here basically is on our revenues and total contributions. So we all know that we don't get, we're underfunded in special ed, and this basically will show you about how much we are. So the red is contribution, meaning after we pay all the special ed costs, we have to contribute from the general fund. The board's very aware of this. So in 18-19, we had 61.6% was from general fund contribution. So that's a huge amount that we have to fund that we're not getting provided through the state or from the federal government. That number actually increased for 19-20 in spite of the fact that our costs went up only 2.3%. Our funding actually did decrease from prior year overall. And you can see, we had $5.6 million in 18-19 and 5.5. So funding's down. We're managing the amount of growth in expenditures. However, our contribution has to be up in order to accommodate that. This really shows we have a funding problem with special ed. Next slide. So basically we're at the part where we talk a little bit about our ending fund balance. Remember, we are focused on the general fund. At budget adoption, we were estimating $2,356,000 in our estimated balance. That came in at $3,275,000. Again, that's where the $800,000 increase comes in on that. There's other categories in there that we have restricted. That 3.2 million includes restricted reserves of $1 million. Next slide. Okay, so we all know, and it is good. I think we did a good job on tightening things up. We made some very proactive choices in coming up and cutting things from our budget. We had our fiscal recovery plan. This shows that, yes, we did make some cuts. Yes, it did have an impact on our budget, and all positives on that. So an increase in that fund balance is something to celebrate. However, it is important to remember our fiscal solvency is based on the 3-year projections. This fund balance is our first line of defense to offset the level of significant deficit spending that we're looking at over the next few years. So good news on the budget, meaning we had a surplus at the end of the year, but it doesn't address the deficits that we need to look at. That's what we're going to be tackling in the budget committee coming up, and we're going to be looking at the 2021 and 2022 years. As it stands now, and this is for the 45-day budget revision, we still fall below the 3%. So we have to do some things in order to further decrease spending next year or increase revenues on that. Next slide. So that's the end of the presentation. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? Is that a potato penny? I don't know. It's rather unique with, you know. That's good. Questions from anybody?
Robert, I'm just wondering, have we followed up with the casino?
Yes, we did. And so right now, there's some hope that we could have some money later in the year, but there's nothing of any certainty right now.
Okay. Have we heard anything more on new construction in our cities?
I have not. We are continuing to collect developer fees from the projects that are going on now, but I haven't heard of any new projects coming on.
We haven't heard anything, any kind of update on whether SOMO's moving forward?
I have not.
Thank you.
Jennifer, from the real estate standpoint, do we look like people, are we losing people to moving out of the area?
From the real estate point, we have an influx of people coming in and we have an influx of people going out. I think everyone right now has the opportunity to work from home. So we have a lot of people moving here from the East Bay that want more space. And then we've got people here that want even more space from here and are going either out of state or more north.
Okay. If they have kids, can you say you have to stay or you can't? No. Okay.
There was a Press Democrat article over the weekend, a small sampling, but there are a lot of people that are leaving California for all the reasons we've talked about before, and just adding the fire and the smoke, and COVID is just another layer to that.
COVID's in those other states too, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. If there aren't any other questions, we have to take action on 11B. So can I have a motion to accept and approve the 2019-2020 unaudited actual financial report?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second.
Robert, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I do just want to recognize the business office staff, particularly Ray Pohl, who does a phenomenal work, and he really does a lot of the nuts and bolts and work on getting the unaudited actuals done, as well as a lot of them. So we're fortunate to have her.
You and your staff. Okay, super. So we'll go to 11C, Resolution 2021-5, adopting the GAN limit for the 2019-2020 year.
So this is something we have to do every year, and I won't attempt to explain what the GAN limit is or why we have to do it. That's why I attach a services article with it. Basically, it's an appropriations limit with the state, and we just have to ensure that we're not over appropriating ourselves on our level. And the GAN limit shows that we're not.
Any questions? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Pardon me?
I said so moved.
Okay, have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Trustee Brown,
Yes.
trustee Chimino,
Yes.
trustee Gillies,
Yes.
trustee Non,
Yes.
trustee Welchmuth.
Yes.
Okay, we'll go on to 11E, acceptance of gifts and donations. I just want to thank those 2 anonymous donors that For Richard Crane, reduce family lunch fees, anonymous, $2,016. Thank you to those person or persons. And also to Tech Middle for 250 library books. So thank you to that individual or individuals. So may I have a motion to accept the donations, gifts and donations totaling $4,516.
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. So reports, board members, reports and future agenda items. I'll go first. Don't have a lot, just a plug for the Ed Foundation. Their auction is going now, so log on and help them out because it helps us out. Thanks to all the teachers and staff for getting through the first month. We'll do it.
Hey, Les.
Yeah.
Are they delivering that table that you won last year to your house so you can sit there during the auction?
No, there's no comment about that. So hopefully the table will be when we reconvene to in person, because it just doesn't have the same Zoom effect sitting at a table doing that.
We did that for an auction for Anthony's promotion. It was like front row parking and the front row seating, and just like, that's what I want. So I went all out. But it's like, it goes to the school. I'm not like, it's good that the school gets some money, but I went a little crazy on it to get those. So
good. All right, other
I was already outbid of all the 4 things I did, so I got to wait till Saturday because it goes for a week. So I'll wait till the last minute with the trigger finger.
Trigger finger.
It's a good cause. It really is.
Right.
Well, the best is because you can see everyone, so you can, go against your friends, and that really gets the price going. That's what I love about that thing.
Yeah, you did that to me last year, as I recall.
Yeah.
Friends. Okay, other board members? Anybody?
Yeah, I just wanted. I had the opportunity to talk to quite a few teachers this last week about how things are going in their classrooms, and parents alike. There's still a little bit of frustration, or a lot of frustration, regarding our hotspots. So I'm wondering if there's any kind of outreach that we can do just to the public in a different variety of ways, where if our hotspots aren't working, if there's anyone in our community that wants to sponsor other families and maybe increase the bandwidth at somebody's home for them, if there's something, I don't know if there's something we can put together for that. Those that have a higher bandwidth seem to be doing much better with not getting kicked off of the classes. It's causing less frustration. So I know for me personally, as an independent contractor and being self-employed, being able to work from home, I can write that off. And I think because you're being forced to work from home, that you probably can too. So, I think it's one of those things that we all can look into about, just seeing if there's a way that we can donate in that fashion to help other people. I know it's been a big frustration for both teachers and the kids. So
how do we identify that? Other than, I understand what you're saying. If someone were to pay, for some services for some students, how do we determine who needs that, and how do we go about, getting that services and matching donors or resources to those users?
Well, I don't know without talking. I don't know if we talked to Mike Kirby or if we talked to SCO, if there's some way to talk to Comcast and have packages put together where we can have people put on a list if they're in an area that really drops their internet a lot. I don't know.
Is there
I'm not sure how to look into it.
Is there
talking to the teachers.
putting a link onto our webpage that says, you know, if you don't have, you know, adequate services, can you notify us? I don't know. I'm just guessing. I don't know. I'm trying to reach.
Well, I've had some people say that they think that their internet's getting dropped more from their Chrome notebook than if they go online on their laptop. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it either, or if it's you know, both combined.
I know personally, like the first week, we have Comcast, and we've had the same box for like 3 years or whatever, and it was getting dropped like multiple times a day. And right when I got home, it was like, you need to fix this. So I looked on the Nextdoor app, and it seemed like a lot of people were having the same issue. And I just took my old modem to Comcast on Santa Rosa Avenue, and it was super easy. They just switched it out. And actually, when I was there, they got me a better deal. So I ended up saving money and getting a better, like more bandwidth for a lot cheaper. So it was like it was like a really good positive experience. And then we haven't had any issues since then. But I noticed a lot, I guess they're switching over technology or something, and those older modems were cutting out on, everyone. And there's a line of people there doing the same thing, getting their newer style modems. So that might be an issue or a solution for people.
Right.
Yeah, I have the Comcast Blast. It's the fastest you could get, but it's not cheap. And for our families who are doing $10 a month for a hotspot, trying to have a family go to maybe $89.95, which is what it could cost at Comcast, is just not something that's feasible for a lot of them. So I do know, I've heard from some parents who don't have internet at all, like live on the outskirts of Rohnert Park or in some places in Cotati. And so I don't know if the IT department could put together, have parents send in, like they need more tickets in the IT department. But if it's possible to get tickets for parents who don't have internet or are using some other kind through their hotspot through their phone or whatever they're doing, how we could get a list together of families in need, even some teachers that don't have high-speed internet. Not all of us can afford to do that. So I don't know. I mean, I hate to task the department with doing something else, but as Jennifer said, if people are getting dropped, it's just going to be a frustration for parents to say, I give up. Uncle, I'm not going to do this anymore. We got to figure out some other way to do it. So if we could do anything to help.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Jennifer.
I was just saying, and teachers alike. I think it's a full circle. Everyone's doing their best to keep everyone engaged in learning and trying to stay happy. I don't know how they're doing it. It's not an easy task, and I definitely applaud all of them that are working so hard at doing it.
Yeah, it's hard.
Okay. Why don't we, keep our ear to the ground and let's see what happens in a month from now. Not trying to ignore this, but if we come up with anyone comes up with a solution, or I don't know, like Joe switching out modems, and as we get tickets, we keep working on solutions. I mean, it's still going to be difficult, but maybe.
You talked about doing a Q&A. Are IT doing like videos with Q&A? Have they been doing that for YouTube?
We do have several videos that have been provided as support. But as you saw tonight, sometimes even just shutting off the camera helps. Right. So there's a lot. It's very intricate. One of the things that we can certainly collect any data from the tickets that we receive, and we continue to work on that. And I think that our principals are out doing a lot of outreach, and we can probably tap into their expertise and see, what it is. Sometimes it's the challenge of, user error. Sometimes it's bandwidth. So there's different things, and it's really interesting that just maybe even turning off the camera can help. And we would do that when we were working through this, but we'll definitely keep our ears open and be looking for, what the challenges are so we can support our families and our teachers.
I think that would be great if we had a commonly asked question and answer, even posted on our Facebook page. I know Lawrence Jones PTA has done really well at parents, the outreach between parents, trying to help each other. Hey, I couldn't do this today, I couldn't get on, or this kept happening, and we all helped each other, and I don't know that all schools have that. So adding that extra little question and answer onto our Facebook page, I think would be helpful. It's just one more tool for people to go to.
Thank you. We will definitely do that. And I'll be probably working with our IT department to see what they're seeing.
Great, thank you.
And your principals are a great conduit because they're tied to their students and their teachers. So too, whatever they can provide us, the information will be great.
Right. We'll definitely look into that. They have their ears to the ground, and they really are, listening to what's going on. We're also going to be spending time sharing our parent data with our principals that are meeting this week, so they can look to see what's happening and what's impacting our families. And we've disaggregated, thank you, Mr. Marshall, disaggregated the data by school. So we have district and school data so that we can inform and guide the work going forward.
Okay. Any other board members? If not, we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Yes. Just want to let you know that I'm continuing to do community interviews. I've basically talked to community leaders. I've talked to PTA presidents, also did an interview with RIPSIA leadership, asking my questions. This is part of my entry plan. We've also had quite a number of meetings to gather input and to update our different committees. So we've had the Parcel Tax Committee has met, the Bond Oversight Committee has met, our DLAC has met, and our Parent Advisory has met. So we've been busy with meetings. I've continued to do site visits, and it's been really wonderful to tour campuses, although some of the classrooms, the classrooms are empty. I'm able to meet the teachers that are teaching from their classrooms and get some perspective on what's going on our school sites and talk about goals and what our principals want to accomplish this year. We've also, I'm so excited, it's September and I'm diving into student interviews. So this week I have met with Tech High School and Rancho Cotati High School students, 3 different panels, and they have made my week. They have been very articulate and clearly communicated that the spring was a little hectic and chaotic, but things are working so much better. And they really loudly applauded their teachers for being flexible and supporting them. And if they're struggling with an assignment. So I really just want to do a shout out to the high school teachers that have really accommodated our students and realize how stressful distance learning can be for our students. So it's been a wonderful week, and I'm going to continue to meet with students. Later on this week, I'm going to be meeting with some middle school students. But I tell the students I miss them because there's nothing harder than starting a job and not seeing the students that you serve. So it's an opportunity to meet a few really wonderful students, and they had some really good questions for me, and they had some really good priorities for me also. But it's been a really good week.
Super. I expect you to go all the way down to kindergartners, because kindergartners are so honest.
I can't wait to get into kindergarten class. It's going to be a little while.
Precious, so all students are precious, but
oh yes,
the little ones are so innocent and wonderful. So, okay, thank you. Anything else, Myra?
No, that's it for my report.
Okay, everybody, thanks for everything. We will adjourn the meeting and keep up the good work, and we'll make it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice